Hi, welcome to day 8 of the Python challenge, and today we're going to talk about list in Python. So without further ado, let's get started. So up to right now we were talking mainly about algorithm, and algorithms are a set of rules or steps that we use to solve a problem that we have. As of today and in the next two sessions, we're going to talk more about data structure. And data structure is basically a particular way that we organize data in a computer. So when we want to talk about data structure, we are going to talk about basically a collection of data. So what we need to know first about data structure is what is not a collection of data. So we can have an example of a variable. So in this case we have our variable x, we assign 2 to x. On the next line of the code we assign 4 to x. So in this case the variable x has been overwritten by number 4. So as we see here, this has been changed and overwritten. So if we print x at the end, we get number 4. So this variable is not a collection of data that we can refer to, basically. Okay, in contrary to a variable, we can have a list. And list is a kind of a collection. We can metaphorically look at it as a suitcase or several suitcases. We can put several different things in a suitcase. It's not like variable that can only have one single item on it. It can have a collection of things inside. So for example, a list friends is can be comprised of 3 names: Joseph, Glenn, Sally. And we have another list of carry on, which can be which has a couple of values, and in this case those values are socks, shirt, and perfume. So here we have a list that are a collection of many variables or many values, in contrary to a variable that can only have a single value inside of it. So in this slide we are going to talk about the list constant. For example, we can have a list of 3 numbers, 3 integer. So if we print it, we will get this 3 integer. We can have a list of strings. So here we have a list that has red, yellow, blue, and they are all in single quotation, thus they are string. When we print it, we of course get red, blue, yellow. Red, yellow, blue. I'm sorry. The list can be also a combination of strings and integer and floating number. So in this case we have red, 24, and 98.6. So this is going to be our list. We can also have another list within a parent list. So in this case we have 1. The second value is a list itself, which is 5 and 6, and the third value is 7. So if we print it, we get this list including which is included in the parent list. And we also have a null list which has nothing inside of it. So we already used lists, if you remember, in our previous lessons. The very first use that we had for it was a for loop. So in this case, we can, another example is we have a for loop, and for the I, which is our iteration variable, we go through each value of the list that we have. So for in the first iteration, I is going to be 5, then it's going to be 4, then it's going to be 3, 2, and 1. For each iteration, we're going to have a print I command, and after this block of 4 is completed, we'll go to the next line, which is print blast off. So the output of this would be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and blast off. So the one of the advantages that we can use of having a list is using a list to define a definite loop. For example, in this case, we have a list of which we called friends, and friends include three values, which is Joseph, Glenn, and Sally. So we have a loop here, and our iteration variable is friend. So for friend in friends, which is our list, we're gonna print happy new year and iteration variable friend. So in this case, we're gonna have a loop. Our list is going to be friends, and for each value in this list, we're going to have an output of happy birthday and then the iteration value. And after this for block, we will print done. So our output is going to be Happy New Year Joseph, Happy New Year Glenn, Happy New Year Sally, and at the end we have done. So the idea here, we have another example which the output is identical to the above example. Is the idea here is that in this case we used variable name that are list name that are user friendly to us. For example, so we know this list because it's called friends, it has friends in it, the name of the friends in it, and this iteration variable is singular. Friends is singular, and it's going through each member of this list. Basically, we can of course use Z and X here. So the idea is Python doesn't differentiate between Z and X here and friends and friend here, but for our ease of use, it's better for us to use names that we can relate to, and it's easier for us to it's going to be easier for us also to troubleshoot if the times come, basically. But Python, strictly speaking, it doesn't differentiate between friends or friend or Z and X in this case. Okay, so we use a square bracket in our list to specify a specific value in our list. So in this case, for example, our list variable friends has Joseph, Glenn, Sally. So Joseph has the position 0, Glenn has position 1, and Sally has position 2. So in this case, the square bracket 1 of friend is going to be Glenn. So when we print it, we get Glenn. So this is how we can access a value inside our list. So there is a concept here that we're going to learn, and it's mutable, and lists are mutable. What it means is that we can change the content of it, we can change the value of each member of it or each element of it using the index operator that we talked about. So going back here real quick, this is the index operator here. So we identified the value, number, position that we want to modify or call upon, and that's how we use it. So in this case, because the lists are mutable, we can modify the content of a list. In contrary to the list, strings are immutable, which means that we cannot change the content of the string, and we have to create a new string in order to make any changes. We cannot reuse the same string as the case is with our list here. For example, so we have a string and we are assigning banana to it, and when we, the way that we can call this string content is fruit of 0, for example. So fruit square bracket 0 means the very first character in our string, which is capital B. Here we are trying to replace capital B with small b. So, but we cannot. We get a traceback because the string is immutable and we cannot change the content of the fruit because it's string. So again, to confirm this, we can call the function, the lower function upon the fruit, and when we print it, our when we call the lower function upon fruit and we assign it to the x, when we print x, we're going to have banana with a small b. So in this case, x has been the lower case of our fruit, but the content of the fruit is still banana with capital B. So the lower function did not change the original fruit string. On the other hand, let's talk about the list that we have here. And the list that we have here has some values: 2, 14, 26, 41, 63. When we print it, we get that as it is. We can use the index operator. So loto square bracket 2 means the value number at the position 2. This is position 0, 1, 2, which is 26. In this case, we are going to replace that 26 with the new value, which is 28. When we print it, we get 28 replaced by, we get 26 replaced by 28. So this is an example of a mutable variable, which is list in this case, and the same idea of mutability does not apply to the string. Okay, so now we want to use some other functions upon list. First, we want to know how long is a list. It's very easy. We can use the len function, and the len function will return the number of elements that are in our list. So in this case, we assign a string hello Bob to this variable. We call the len function of it, and this will tell us how many characters are inside this string. 1 2 3 4 5 space 6 7 8 9, we get 9. We create a list and we assign these values to it. Then we call upon the len function. We're gonna have 1 2 3 4, so we can have again a mix of integer and a string inside a list. Okay, so the next concept that the next function that we're going to use upon a list is the range. In this case, the range function will return a list of numbers that range from 0 to 1 less than that parameter. For example, so range 4 means that we will have a list of 4 values. So basically we start from 0 1 2 3. We have to keep remember that this is position 0, this is 1 2 and 3. So we have a list with 4 values, but the position is, the maximum position is 1 below the number that we use here as a parameter. Another example is we have a list of 3 values. We use the len function to get the length of friends list, and that's 3. And we use the same range function to create a list with that length, which is 3. So again, we start from 0 1 2, and this is position 0 1 2 again, and it has 3 values, and it's the maximum value is 1 less than the parameter that we use here, which is 3. So this is a good idea to use. We can construct an index loop using 4 and an integer as an iterator, which is going to talk in this slide. So this is a list with 3 values: Joseph, Glenn, Sally. We saw it before, and we have one for block here, and it says for friend. In friends, we're gonna have print Happy New Year friend. So in this case, the output will be Happy New Year Joseph, Happy New Year Glenn, Happy New Year Sally. The other way that we can do it is we can use the range function. So first we're gonna have the length of friends, which is 3. So 1 2 3 in this case, and then we're gonna use the range function to create a list with which the maximum number is 1 below that index parameter, which is 2. So it's going to be 0 1 2. That's going to be our list values. And then for that I, basically for that I forgot the name, for that parameter that we use in the range function, we're going to have a loop which is going to run for 3 times, and we're going to print Happy New Year and the friend. So basically we're going to have the same output but different approach to create the same output, basically. The first one is using the iteration variable. The second is using the range function and creating the for loop using that range function. Okay, so we can have a operator at the plus, which is the concatenation. So in this case we have one list 1 2 3, the second list 4 5 6. We concatenate these two lists and we assign it to another list called C. Then we print it. It's going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6. And when we print A, we're still going to have 1 2 3, which means that this concatenation has nothing to do with our original components that we used here. So it doesn't change the original list A in this case. Okay, so the other concept is slicing. This is our variable, this is our list, and it has 2 4 6 members. When we use the bracket and the column, so we're calling value 1 to 1 less than what we see here. So it's going to be value 1 and value 2, excluding 3. So this is value 0, this is value 1, is 41, is here. The next one is value 2, 12, and that's the slice that we take out using the square bracket and the comma. Yeah, I'm sorry, the column, not comma, the column. So here we're going to slice from the beginning to the third position. So beginning is 9, position 0, position 1, position 2, position 3. This is the slice that we take out, and you can see it here. If we don't put anything at the end of the square bracket, Python assumes that it's still the end of the list. So the start position is position number 3. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So position number 3 value is 3. This is like a coincidence here. So we start with 3 and we go to the end of the string, to this end of the list, which is 15. And we do, if we do square bracket column and nothing at the beginning, nothing at the end, Python will assume we're going to have the whole list here, which will print it here. Okay, so when we create a list, for example, our variable x, the content of variable x is a list. So when we use the type function, we get this type is a list. What we can do is we can call the dir method upon this list, and the output of dir is the methods that we can use upon this list. In this case, we have append, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, and sort. And we're going to talk about every of these in either in the later today or in the later chapters. Okay, so one of the ways that we can create a list from scratch is basically we create an empty list here and we put it to stuff, and we use the append command, append method, and we said okay, stuff, append to it, book, and then in the next line we're going to have another append and we're going to have 99. When we print the stuff, we're going to have book and 99 to it. So this is how we using the list function. This is a special special word basically in Python. We create the list, we append book and 99, and this is going to be our output. We have another append with cookie. When we print it, we have cookie at the end of the list. So we use list to initiate the creation of the list variable, and we appended string, integer, and another string to it, and it looked like this. So append basically adds the value that we have to the end of existing list that we have. So in some cases we want to know if the specific value exists in our list. So in this case we have this list assigned to variable sum. We can use the in operator, and we say is 9 inside our list, and it is inside our list, so the result would be true. The next one is 15 in our list, so we don't have 15, the result would be false. The next one is 20 in our list, we don't have 20. I'm sorry, the next one is if 20 is not in our list, and 20 indeed is not in our list, so the result is going to be true. So these are basically the Boolean operator that we use, and we can use the in operator or not in operator in this case, and the result is going to be either true or false. Okay, so sometimes we need to sort the content of the list that we have. In this case we have 3 strings in our list. When we call the sort function upon this list and we print it, we get the name based on the alphabetical order. And if we print friend square bracket 1, it means that this is position 0, this is position 1, we're gonna have Joseph. But if we would do the same here on our original friends, we would get Glenn. So basically when we sort this list, we get a new position, and that's going back to the mutability of our list, which means that we can modify the content of the order of the values that we have within the list. Okay, so next we're going to talk about the built-in functions. That we have. So we have our list here. The first function we're going to call upon is len, which is gonna give us the length of this list. Here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6. And the next one is max, which means what is the maximum value that is on our list. This is 41. No, it's not 41, it's 74, so we get 74 here. The next one is min. What is the minimum value that we have in our list? In this case is 3, we get 3. Sum, get the adding of the all values in our list. In this case it's going to be 154. And the next one, we're gonna have the average of our list values, which is going to be sum of the num divided by length of the num. It's going to be 25.6, which is the average. Okay, so in this example we have 2 ways of calculating the average. So in the first way we have total variable. We have a variable called total, we assign 0. We have a variable called count, we assign 0 to it. We have a while loop, and we start getting input from the keyboard. If input is done, we break, we go to the next one. It means that we have received enough numbers. If we did not get done, we continue, we change the content of our input from integer to float. We add, and we put it in the value, and we put value, we add it to total, and we put it to total, and we increase the count by 1. So while this happens, like let's say this happens 10 times, so we're gonna have our count variable is going to be 10, which means that we have 10 integer, and the total is going to be the sum of all the variables that we have received. After this is done, we receive done, we go out of this while block, and we have our average, and we're going to print our average. We get the same result here. So the way that we do it, we create a list, an empty list, we assign it to num list. We have our while block, and this is the same basically up to here. Here we append the value that we get from input device. We append that to the num list. So in this case, we just expanding our list, and at the end we use the sum function upon the num list, and we divide that to the length function of the num list, and that will give us the average. The difference, so the result is identical. The result of these two pieces of codes are identical. The difference here is, here we have a list that it keeps expanding with the append command. The problem here is if we have a lot of iteration through this while, because our list is expanding, we will have more and more memory will be assigned to this piece of code. So this part is using more memory. If we have not a lot of numbers, this is not going to be significant. We probably don't notice that. But this is something to keep in mind when it comes to the performance of pieces of code. We want to always have a piece of code that has low footprint in our resources, which is in this case CPU and memory. So in this case, because we are adding a number to a specific variable, we are not expanding our list. You're just adding that to a specific integer or a float, which already has a specific piece of memory to this. The float has a specific number of memory already assigned to it. So whatever we put to it is not gonna change unless it reaches its limit, which is not the case here. If it was the case here, it's going to have the same effect here. So we are not going to get to that. But we just need to be aware that this piece of code, if we have a lot of iteration here, if we have a lot of number coming here, we'll use more memory and resources compared to this one. We just need to be aware of that. Okay, so we are using another function which will change string to a list. For example, so we have a string with 3 words. So we use the split function upon this string, and we assign it to stuff, we print stuff, and when we print it, we find out that the split function basically went ahead and choose every word up to a space and assign that word to a value, to its corresponding value in a list. So in this case, we have 3 words. We have a list with 3 values, and the space between these are the way that we can distinguish between these 3 members. The length of this list is of course 3, and if we want to take the first member, the first value of it is going to be width. It's important to notice that no, it's actually, I'm going ahead of myself. We get to that. So here our stuff variable is again a list, and we can do a for using an iteration variable, which is w. So for w in stuff, just print w, which is going to go one by one to the member of the list that we have, which is going to be with 3 words. And we get a new line because print has that invisible \n at the end of each line. So here we have a longer string, a lot of space, and we have a lot of space here. We have only 1 space here, a lot of space here, and 1 space here. When we use a split consider 1 space or many spaces as the same. So when we use a split command, this is going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4 values. Okay, so what if we have a string with a semicolon in between them? If we use the split doesn't understand the semicolon, so we're just gonna have one list with 1 value, and that value is first semicolon, second semicolon, third. The length of it is 1. We have also another option. The other option is we can use the semicolon as a parameter for split function, and this will recognize that, okay, when we split this string, when we get to a semicolon, we use a different, we go to the next value. So we consider the next, whatever is after the semicolon or between the semicolons, as the next value. So if we use semicolon as a parameter here, we're gonna have a list with 3 values, and the length of it is 3. Okay, so here we have a piece of code that basically we're gonna use the open function. We open this text file, we put it in the file file handler, and we have a for loop for line in our fhand. So it means that for every line that we have, we're gonna have the rstrip command, which means that it will strip the \n, which is at the end of each line, so it gets rid of that. If the line does not start with from. We don't care about this, we go back. So we just, if we have something that does not, we are only interested with the lines that start with from. So whatever we get, whatever line we start with from, we are interested to. So for those lines, we use the split command or split function upon this line. So when we split it, we have, this is position 0, this is position 1, this is position 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we split it and we take the position 2, 0, 1, 2. So it's gonna go through all these lines in our file, and it's gonna catch the date that the email was sent or received, in this case, I believe. So this is gonna be our output here. Okay. So we're gonna use double split. In this case, we're gonna split this line. This is gonna give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a list with 7 members, or 7 variable, or 7 values, let's say. And we're gonna take the first, the position 1 value. So this is gonna be 0, and this is gonna be 1. So this is the email portion of the line, and we assign it to variable email. Now we're gonna do something else with this. So this is the output, this is the email. Now we're gonna split that output using the parameter at. So we're gonna go ahead, when we get to at, we're gonna split this part, put it in the first value, and we're gonna split this part, put it in the second value. So this is the second split that we use. And now we're gonna use the value and position 1, which is the domain name that this email has been received from. So this is how we use a double split to take a specific part of a email address out of a text. Okay, so what did we talk about today? We talked about the concept of the collection. We talked about list and definite loops. We talked about indexing and lookup. We talked about list mutability, which means that we can modify the content of the list. We talked about the length function, min function, max, and sum. We talked about the slicing. We talked about append and remove, how to add values to the end of the list. We start using the sort function. We use the split function, and we use the split to parse strings and extract different portion of or interesting portion of the specific string out of it. Okay, as always, we have to acknowledge that this slide has been taken from Python for Everyone, and the copyright goes to Mr. Charles Severance. Thank you so much, and have a good day.